So, so, you want to be a dungeon master?
That's great. We're here to help. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Justin. This week, we're covering everything Goblin. Praise be to Maglubiyet. That's right, gang. We're talking about Goblin lore, Goblin stats, and Goblin up those players' expectations to keep things fun and fresh. So, how can dungeon masters use goblins throughout their world building, encounters, and campaigns? Well, let's jump into it. But first, always gotta be. But first, Taylor, other than D&D, what other media or pop culture has goblins in them that may have informed you in some way of how to portray goblins in any of your settings or stories or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. My absolute, and this is, and it's because it kind of falls into our normal, like trope of not like just because something is an orc or just because something is a goblin or whatever, goblinoid, doesn't mean that they're bad. My favorite, absolute favorite depiction of goblins is in World of Warcraft. I love them.
Oh, fun. Okay, I'm unfamiliar with
So
I've never played. I watched the movie. That tells you where I'm at. Okay.
Gotcha. All right. So in the Warcraft universe, goblins are just little guys that like to tinker and make crazy zeppelins and cannons and shit, and just that's their whole shtick.
Oh, yeah.
So they're just wild, explosive pyromaniacs that are crazy. But you know, they're in the World of Warcraft place. They're kind of like goblin towns are neutral zones. They're not horde or alliance.
Oh,
so you
fun.
run into both, and if you start shit, the goblins will fuck you up. Like if you start shit with a horde person, yeah. So like the whole town turns on you.
Interesting.
So it's kind of this thing. So they have their own neutral cities that you go to, and there's a lot of fun quests that start there. Goblins also are like I said, like the pyromaniacs of the universe. So like you can get like sticks of dynamite and shit, and like all kinds of fun stuff. Yeah. So that
does World of Warcraft have gnomes?
It does. And they are the kind of a similar situation as the goblins, also the tinkerers and crafters.
Yeah.
But they're so where the goblins excel in the explosive rocketry stuff like that. Gnomes are more the electronics, computers, that type of thing.
Okay.
And there are towns where like the two of them like the two groups get together and work together. Like there's a place. This is WoW Classic, by the way, Grant. Where by the way, for those that are like, wait, that's not how WoW is anymore. No. Back in the day, back in 2000 and whatever, like early 2000s. But there was this a place called like the Salt Flats, and it was goblins and gnomes working together to make race cars.
Holy shit, dude! It sounds like pod racing.
Yeah, it was. The whole thing was set up like that.
Early pod racing.
The whole thing was like the pod racing track from Phantom Menace. It's kind of just this flat desert with a bunch of rocks and pillars and stuff around.
Yep. Dude, that's dope as hell.
But yeah, so that's whenever I pull from goblins, whenever I'm pulling goblins into my world, they're coming from World of Warcraft because I just like the crazy little deranged guys that blow shit up.
100%. That's dope. I love that one. For me, I'm thinking of when I think of goblins and other forms of media other than D&D, because I do draw like a decent amount of my inspiration from D&D itself. Like they do have different stat blocks, and we've found so many third-party things where that can inspire you as well. So sometimes it does just come from D&D, but outside of that, when I think of goblins, I think of two particular IPs. One of them is like a hidden gem. Like no one's really heard of this. It's like, so I've tried to bring it up to different people, and it's like so etched into my psyche as this thing that I watched as a little kid. It was like a VHS that we had in our house. But it was one of those similar to like the end of Fantasia, where it's built up in my head as like one of the scariest things I've ever seen as a kid. And it's not necessary, like that part of the movie, of course, is supposed to be a little scarier, but like I don't think this movie was supposed to be as terrifying as it scared me. And that is Little Nemo Adventures in Slumberland. It's a
Oh,
1989 movie,
why
animated.
does that make me remember things? Continue. Hold on.
If you look it up, it's crazy. But okay, so in that, there are goblins in this story. He goes into Slumberland, just like you imagine. It's almost like Neverland. It's a little
Hmm.
magical. There are goblins. There's
Hmm.
the Slumber King or like the Dream King or something. But then there's also like the Nightmare Forest or the Nightmare King, and we have to get them and blah blah blah. But the thing is, in this, I distinctly remember there being goblins in the form of little furry guys. They were
Right.
just little furry guys. They almost looked like if you took a bugbear and just made them goblin sized. And they did
Okay.
have varying sizes. There were little tiny ones, there were slightly bigger ones, but I remember them being able to do this thing where they could combine. It would start out bigger and then they would like scatter and like become three goblins. It was
Okay.
like, three
Okay.
kobolds in a trench coat. Imagine
Mhm.
that, but like they
It's all
fuse
right, right,
into
right.
a singular thing. It was really interesting.
Right.
And they're like good guys. They're not like they're mischievous and they're kind of like little wily, but they're not bad guys in the slightest in this story, at least not from my recollection. Again, I
Right.
haven't seen this movie since being a kid. I've like looked up YouTube videos on it because it's so freaking crazy. But yeah, that's one. My other one is Labyrinth.
Okay. Yeah.
David Bowie is the
Uh-huh.
Goblin King. Now,
Hmm.
he is very far from what we normally imagine as a goblin.
Hmm.
But if you think about it, I kind of love it because it's like, why is he doing this? What is the purpose of the plot of that movie? Truly, there's a woman, a young girl, let's be actually more
Yeah, a young girl.
accurate,
Yeah, yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
young girl who's
Yes.
alone in her room and is like, gosh, my life stinks. I have to watch this baby. I wish this baby wasn't here. And somewhere a goblin king went, oh, some bullshit I can get into. Some drama I could kind of fuck up. Oh shit, I'm gonna call some chaos. And it immediately
Yeah,
jumps in
yeah,
like
yeah,
this monkey's paw situation of like,
yeah.
I hear your wish, I can twist that into my own things, and that's gonna somehow, and then we're gonna be together. Just like
Yeah.
so chaotic and crazy that it kind of is like, yeah, that's goblin behavior. But then also, obviously, he's got all the creatures as well, the different
Mm.
things that he uses and the different minions that he has, and they're obviously much more goblin shaped, especially I have a lot of love for that because I'm a big Jim Henson fan. So just like
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
specific
yeah, yeah,
puppetry of
yeah.
everything, like
The
even the
the
scene
puppetry
where
in that movie is fun.
those
Yeah.
three creatures are like throwing their heads
Hmm.
around
Hmm.
as like that's interesting and fun. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely think of those two IPs when I think of goblins. But yeah, goblins are crazy and they're so
They are.
diverse and we can have a lot of fun with them. But
Mhm.
it does feel like they're safely in that category of little guy
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're definitely
pretty
in the
safely.
little guy
Obviously, you can change
category.
things. You can even make them a little bit bigger, and they're still little guys at the end of the day.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
about what type of little guy you want your goblins to be, and that's what we're going to talk about. But before we do, gang, check out the Patreon. There's all kinds of cool stuff on the Patreon. There's only more things coming to the Patreon, fun magic items weekly, and then some subclasses down the line. We also have once these actual plays kind of wind down, I think I'm going to start working on some modules and different things that you can add to your campaigns and different things specifically for dungeon masters, whereas subclasses are a little bit more for the players unless DMs want to either be a player or use it for a NPC stat block. So I
Hmm.
was like, what's homebrew stuff that DMs need? And it's
Yeah.
truly like settings, monster stats, modules, those kinds of
Hmm.
things. So I'm trying to maybe make a little bit of a switch. But that's all on the Patreon, folks. Check it out. Link in the description. Okay, meat of the episode. Now, before we get into what is it considered maybe quote unquote established D&D goblin lore, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? I think it's important to know a couple of things, reminders, if you will. Number one, you don't have to use any of it, right? You can go
Yeah.
100% World of Warcraft, and
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that. You can go 50% World of Warcraft, 50% D&D, you know what I mean? Like make it like that, but maybe you're like, "Oh, I don't know about Black Powder or how advanced I want them." Like maybe not rockets, but maybe like steam powered stuff.
Right.
Like
Right. Right.
depend you can like level things and figure it out, you know? Um I also think you can just completely go whole cloth and just homebrew it top to bottom if you really
Yep.
wanted to. If you were like, oh, in my world, goblins are actually like the most intelligent race. They're the snooty ones. They're the ones who
Hmm.
look down on other people. They're like,
Oh, yeah.
oh,
Because
I am a goblin. And
yeah.
you're like, oh, interesting. That's a different way of thinking about it. Why not? Um, I've said this before of just the whole like concept of like when it comes to your world building and your setting, who cares? Just have fun
Yeah.
with it. As long
Yeah.
as your players are having fun, as long as it's interesting to you and to the rest of the table, have at it, right? Like who gives a shit what Gary Gygax said about goblins? I don't, whatever. Uh I would say as a little bit of a note, sometimes in the past, goblins across maybe folklore and popular IPs
Hmm.
have been used as racist caricatures. So I would say, heads up,
Yes.
look into that kind of stuff. Uh, be willing and open to receive criticism if you're starting to maybe unintentionally dance that line. I would just be wary of that. I think the more that you educate yourself about media literacy in general, the more that you can avoid things like this and just be a little bit more compassionate about how you're portraying certain things, like Taylor talked about at the top, just the idea of like fantasy racism of like, okay, your goblins don't have to all be villains. They don't have to be, oh, I'm born a goblin and therefore I must have these personality traits or this
Right.
like proclivity for violence or something like that doesn't need to be the case or nor should it. Um, so while today we are going to be discussing classic D&D lore, along the way, hopefully, Taylor and myself can offer different ways of how you may use that, how you may subvert that, use it in different ways, whatever.
Hmm.
So, getting right into it. Where do goblins come from?
Well, the Collins Dictionary defines goblin. No, I'm kidding.
I know, right? I always think about using it. I'm like, how often can I use the Collins Dictionary before they start getting mad at us? Uh,
Yeah, honestly, I'm medium on my actual D&D lore of goblins just because I know about the history of it and I'm not crazy about it. Not not
yeah,
not crazy about the story. I like World of Warcraft goblins better. So like in the I like the Christmas version best.
I
Like you
know.
know what I'm
Hey,
saying? Like
and that's fine. And that's fine. I
yeah.
what I can tell you is if you're going by some of the things, it's interesting because even if you're going by D&D standards,
Hmm.
uh there are variations on the lore. It's not like a
Right.
clear thing.
Okay.
It depends on whose story you're going to buy into. It depends on you as the dungeon master deciding here are all the legends of how goblins started as a
Hmm.
species, but here's the one that in my world is true, right?
Right.
Like
Okay.
that's
I
up to
got you. Yeah,
you
yeah,
to
yeah. Yeah.
decide, kind
Yeah.
of. But what I will say is, uh, through all the mysteriousness and stuff, the idea is that they started in the Feywild. They're a little
Mhm.
bit more connected to Fey. That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
If anybody had ever watched A Court of Fey and Flowers that Abria ran on Dimension 20, it was kind of like the slightly more romance Regency one that Brennan was a party
Yeah,
in,
yeah, yeah.
Oscar, Lou, Emily. That particular season, Brennan plays a bugbear. and he's in like the court of goblins. He's like a part of the goblin court, and it's
Mhm.
awesome. And it's like exactly as you portray, like in your head, Abria and Brennan, how much they work together behind the scenes, I don't know, but like it was perfectly how you picture like slightly more fey goblins.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just like pure fucking chaos. Just like
Mhm.
doing shit. But also like they have rules. The rules are chaos.
Right.
It's like, how dare you bow to me and address me by my full title? That's some rookie shit. Like, throw an apple at me. That's the rule. The rule is to do whatever the hell you want, you know? Like, so it
Right,
was like
right.
so funny. Originally, apparently, they served the Queen of Air and Darkness.
Okay.
They were created alongside hobgoblins and bugbears, so in that goblinoid sort of family.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now, despite having common ancestors, uh, they are considered unique species. The hobgoblins, bugbears, and stuff like that. In the similar way of like how elves, dwarves, and humans. Some
Okay.
origin stories have them being more related and then spreading apart. Some of them are
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
the elves were created specially. It's like, okay, well, they do have a lot of similarities for people who are species that are
Right,
supposed to be
right.
like completely different. It's like, why does the chimpanzee and the gorilla look so similar? And it's like,
Right.
I think if you go back far enough,
Right, right, right. Yeah,
like,
so that's kind of the
God, people
situation that
don't
we got going on.
understand. People also like sometimes will like misunderstand how evolution works. Like the idea of like we came from monkeys, like that
Then why
expression
are
is
there
like
still monkeys?
we had
Right.
common ancestors. It's like no, no, no.
Right.
You're missing how the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
evolution theory works. You're also
Yep.
misunderstanding how the word theory is applied in science versus how it's
Yes.
applied
Oh
in
my
normal
God. Oh my
taxonomy.
God. But
But
it drives me insane. Anyway,
we have to
we
because
have
I
to not.
agree.
We simply must.
So there are some myths that say Maglubiyet. I mentioned that right in the intro. Maglubiyet
This
is
is
that
the
they created goblins, and more specifically to serve hobgoblins, which are known
so
to
they are
be
the
if
lesser. Right. Kind
classic
of.
D&D, right? It's always fucking
Right.
that bullshit of
Right.
hierarchical species
Right.
based.
Right.
Like
Right.
I can't stand it. But there are also a lot of myths that say that goblins had their own pantheon that was unfortunately bent and or broken by Maglubiyet, who's also referred to as the conquering god.
Okay. That's
So
kind of a
then
fun take a little bit of
it
the
changes things dramatically. The idea
yeah.
that some one myth is like, no, you were created for servitude, and the other one
Right.
saying, no, no, this was against your guys' will.
Yeah.
It definitely puts a huge different focus
Hmm.
on the story.
Hmm.
But then the idea is that they were brought from Feywild to Maglubiyet's realm, which is called Acheron. We talked about Acheron or Acheron in the Plains episode. Go back and listen to
Hmm.
that one. That's where they begin to serve him through fear. Uh, then there's other myths talking about Kikanuti is the mother of all goblins, just another deity, sometimes part of that pantheon that was destroyed or broken
Gotcha.
by Maglubiyet. Uh, and then there's like a variation. This is like just an interesting one. This is like a fun monster stat block that you can find online or in
Hmm.
like, I want to say Volos maybe, but they're called Nilbogs. Now, obviously, Nilbog is just the word goblin turned around, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
They're actually created by a trickster deity that's just trying to mess with other gods' creations. So they're
Right on.
just like, oh, you created goblins? What if I fuck it up a little bit? Oh, now it's a Nilbog. And so it's just a more chaotic goblin who's like
Hmm.
driven to mischief.
Right.
So they have like little stat blocks that would help you in that regard. They have like spells and different things where you can truly just mess with people. And it's very fun to include that in a random encounter. Like if
Hmm.
your party is ever traveling from like A to B along the road and they have to rest during the night, Nilbogs. It's like a very low, it's not like gonna be life threatening. It's just fun.
It's like they're like the little dudes. I don't know if did you ever play Golden Axe way back in the day for like Sega Genesis?
Oh, I'm familiar,
Where like it's the you get
but
it's a little side scroller smasher. But
yeah.
okay, so in between levels, you do the little rest thing, and then the little dudes pop up and they try to steal your shit, and
Oh,
you have to go smack them out. That's kind of the situation that we got going on here. You just
they're
got to
so
run over
fun.
and kick them a little bit. Ow! They drop
Yeah,
you.
they have barely any hit points, no
Right,
AC, but they have like a
right,
couple fun spells. Kind of like
right.
fighting pixies,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
well, they can polymorph you,
And you're a
which is
ladybug.
crazy. Yeah, they can cast confusion and like other dumb
Oh,
spells where it's just
yeah,
gonna be a silly time. Like it's
yeah.
not gonna be a life-threatening fight, but it's just gonna be really silly. And it's a good like respite that can
Mm,
still be like mechanical.
yeah.
Like it's still combat, but it's just fun as opposed to like
Mhm.
life-threatening. Um, so when you're deciding like how much of Goblin origin stories to use, which ones to use, whether to make your own up, or if you need one at all, I think there's a bunch of questions that you can ask yourselves, right? Like
Yeah.
the type of story you're trying to tell, the type of world building you're trying to focus on, because world building can encapsulate so many things, right? Like
Hmm.
there are people whose their world building is going to be like, what is the import and export of this town and why is it that way? And what's the history? Why did they start growing wheat as opposed to barley? And it's like
Mm.
some people are going to go that fucking in
Yeah,
depth.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you also have to think about, do you need to know the specific origin of goblins? Do you need to know that? Does
It
it
depends.
apply to the
It depends.
story?
I do like the plot line of the stolen pantheon or conquered pantheon.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing having some of that as your origin of the goblins makes sense in that scene scenario.
Mm-hmm.
In my worlds, generally we're not going into I don't go into the specific origin of really any race.
Nope, me neither. Me neither. Unless
They're
it
here
somehow
and
comes up, then I'll do it on the spot. But like
yeah.
it almost never does. I we've never gone that deep into the history of things. And like
Mhm.
with the deities, it's like we're only going as deep as the deities that we're worshiping.
Right.
Like I don't know. In one of my games, I have a player who's playing a cleric who likes learning about all the different religions and visiting
Mhm.
temples of other deities. So that's obviously putting me in a different position where it's like, okay, I guess I have to learn about all these other
Right.
random ones, or which ones do I want to mention? So
Mhm.
that's actually fun and interesting for me. But normally, yeah, I'm not going in. It doesn't come up.
Mhm.
Why do you need to know? Especially because I don't do the whole like, well, they were created by an evil orcs were created by an evil god named Groomsh, and that is why orcs are evil. It's like because I've already severed that connection of like
Right.
orcs aren't evil by nature,
Right, right,
right?
right.
Nurture, sure. Some of them will go to worship Groomsh and become evil, but that's different.
Right, right, right.
Right? So like because I've severed the whole like instant connection between the creationist story and like their behavior and physiology and all the
Mhm.
bullshit, I think it's made it less necessary.
Right.
I think that's one of my theories at least for why
That's
I
fair.
never feel like I
Yeah.
need it.
Yeah, yeah,
But who
yeah.
knows? So then
I mean, unless it
it's like what does it
actually
add to your
directly
campaign?
affects the story, right?
Yeah. What does it add? What is it adding to your thing? Like,
Mhm.
what are the players getting out of it? What is the story or the plot line or like encounters? Is there like a reason? Because I think you could make there be reasons. Like, if the deities are that important, if they're going to play a bigger role down the line, then start planting the seeds. Um, but it's also like, how are you portraying goblins as well in
Right.
terms of which origin myth you want to pick up or start or talk about? But the same is true for any species, right? Like Kenkus, if you read Volo's Guide to Monsters and Kenku's origin story and why they have to mimic things and why they can't fly and all of their little like abilities as a species, a playable species that you can play. How in depth do you want to get into that, right? Like if a player
Right.
decides to play a Kenku, are you truly going to be like, no, you can only mimic people, you can never speak on your own, and you have to talk in different voices? Like how, you know what I mean? That's not
Mm-mm-mm. That's
Is
how
that
they're
going to be
supposed.
disruptive to the game? Probably, if it's a long campaign, especially unless you figure out a way. I would love that challenge because I would just be keeping a notebook of phrases and I would have them in different voices because I love that shit. where it
Mhm.
would be like, I would love that. It would be like Bumblebee from
Yeah,
Transformers.
yeah,
That
yeah.
would be sick for me. But not everybody wants to do that. So it's like, how are goblins, or in that case, Kenkus, but how are they portrayed? What is the vibe? If there is one, is there a through line? Like
Mhm.
in some of mine, there's not. It's like goblins are little guys, but that's a pretty broad thing that's more recent, right? That's like in the
Yeah.
last 5 years, the phrase little guy has kind of really popped off in the way that it means, like
Right.
culturally. So, like, goblin society.
Mhm.
Speaking of goblins and their behaviors and their traits and the reason they do things, or like, if you're going classic D&D lore, usually they're pretty violent.
Yeah.
They're also kind of like, they have some quote unquote, this is the word that the books use, tribal, which I don't love. I don't know what they mean by tribal specifically, but they use the word tribal, and then they go on to talk about the idea of like the leader is usually the strongest, smartest, and biggest
Mhm.
one, or the one that's most connected to a deity, because it could be like a goblin priest or something.
Right.
It's like very survival of the strongest, right? It's like you rise through power through violence or betrayal or some nefarious means or something like that. It's very like you are just a little like, he's like a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
goblin guy. Um, they're often working for a stronger species like hobgoblins, like bugbears, or something like that. Maybe
yeah.
you could throw in a
Mhm.
troll. Maybe there are some that are working for a dragon, whatever.
Classic little
Um,
guy minion peoples.
Exactly. Yeah, because we're gonna get into stats and stuff, but like goblins are great for lower parties, but you eventually reach a point where unless you're hitting them with crazy numbers or third party types of goblins,
Yeah.
they stop
They're
being as
out.
effective.
Yeah.
It's the same thing we've talked about in the past where you could have a hordes and hordes of zombies, but if they only have a +3 to hit and everybody has all these like level 20 abilities, it's like the action economy thing stops being as effective
Mhm.
when the
Mhm. Mhm.
plus to hit is so low in comparison to the high ACs of our players. You know, like if
Right.
you can't hit, then it doesn't matter how many actions you get, right? Like,
Mhm. And
uh,
also, if your hit does like 4 damage per hit, it's still
yeah,
you're
it's
hitting very infrequently. Yeah. What are we doing here, gang?
what are we doing?
What are we doing?
So goblins, they reproduce very quickly, which is why they're usually found in pretty big numbers. They also live communally in normally like cave networks or something kind of similar to that, maybe an abandoned
Mhm.
mine or something like that.
Think
Uh,
Lord of the Rings goblins
kind of,
like
yeah.
the Hobbit of them living inside the mines of Moria and all that stuff.
Exactly. Uh, so then usually they're like communally, right? So which means that like almost more like barracks situations where like they're going to be sleeping together, but then
Mhm.
maybe like the leaders would be the ones that would have like private chambers.
Yeah.
Like not every goblin family is going to have their own little cave network. You know what
Right,
I
right,
mean?
right.
It's very like, no, we're living, it's worker bees vibe a
Mhm.
little bit more. Um, Sometimes they will work with half orcs or orcs if need be, but their true partner, the one that you can always depend on, the good boys of the goblin community, and
The
that is the
goblin's best
warg.
friend. Yeah, the goblin's
The
best friend.
warg. And we'll come back to the warg, a large wolf-like mount
Mhm.
commonly seen in Lord of the Rings with the orcs. And Lord of the Rings is interesting too. Maybe you know more about this than I do. I'm not like the most
Mhm.
in-depth Lord of the Rings person when it comes to like specific info. I know
Yeah.
some things through like just random videos I've seen. But I
Mhm.
know that in Lord of the Rings there are references to calling some of them goblins when it comes to the orcs. Sometimes some of the orcs, and I'm using orc pretty
Yeah,
loosely
yeah,
because I
yeah.
could
Yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
completely misnomering them, but
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
some are
No,
called goblins and some I know like excuse me,
so they are two
Urukai are like
distinct.
their own thing.
They are separate. Goblins
Okay.
and orcs are separate. There are goblins and there are orcs. They're not, it's
Okay.
not.
See?
So, yeah, like the goblins are the ones in the Hobbit, the orcs are the ones in the Lord of the Rings. So, but like the orcs are like transformed elves. whereas
Mm-hmm.
goblins arose as their own species.
Uh-huh. Okay. Interesting.
Yes.
Got it.
So like orcs were like created, goblins kind of just were they
And
were
then
created, but they were
Urukai are
created
like
by the
orcs and man, like being
like
forced
yeah,
together, kind of.
they're supercharged orcs that can walk in the sun is basically what that
Mm-hmm.
comes down to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Smart. I mean, it's smart. It's gross, but it's smart. Okay.
Hmm.
Well, that is interesting stuff for sure. That's what I mean. How you do it, it
And
changes the
listen,
whole game.
gang, I could be remembering this way wrong. Send us an email. Tell me I'm wrong. Just let me know.
Let us know. Let us know. So, all of this goblin society, the origins of goblins and stuff like that, how can we use this
Hmm.
information? How can we build onto it or make it our own or incorporate it into our stories and stuff like that? I think if we're going like classic D&D lore, I
Hmm.
think the things that I would be looking for is where is this group of goblins? Because I think that would be a big part of it is like I am thinking of using numbers. Like
Hmm.
there's
Hmm. Hmm.
groups of goblins. They're normally together. They're not necessarily known to be ordinarily solitary, maybe with few
Right.
exceptions, of course, because we're going to talk about how you can be a goblin adventurer. Like that's fine.
Hmm.
You can be a PC and be a goblin, as
I
is
do.
very obvious.
Yeah, I do really like the. I mean, just getting into like the base lore of the goblins, the cave system thing, because uh, I think the harrowing escape from the tunnels as waves and like a sea of goblins chases you is fun. I think that
Hell yeah.
that's a really exciting session.
I
You
think that is a really
beat the
good one,
boss, get his
especially
yeah.
there's probably like booby traps,
Hmm.
like makeshift little booby traps and different like things that you have to avoid or dodge as you're
Yeah.
making that escape.
The
Yeah, I
goblin
think that would be
escape scene
really
from The
fun.
Hobbit is playing through my head right now of just like running across the scaffolding and the scaffolding's kind of starting to collapse under all the weight of all the people and
So
like yeah.
scary.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I think that would be good. Uh, so I also think that like thinking about the idea of how they would serve a different creature or
Mhm.
a stronger creature, something that would be something that I would maybe explore. I would also maybe explore playing with the trope in the sense of maybe introducing a large party of goblins, like a community of goblins that live in a cave network. Maybe they've taken over a mine. Maybe that's why the party is there in the
Mhm,
first place
mhm,
to
mhm,
reclaim the
mhm, mhm.
mine for this company, whatever. And maybe playing with this idea of like they're expecting a fight. They're expecting the goblins to have these booby traps to catch to do their
They're the
normal
friendliest
goblin
people.
things.
Well, come on in. Have some
Exactly.
tea. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. That could be a
Yeah.
really fun thing to do as well.
Mhm.
Um, and like warning them about the hobgoblins or the bugbears or
Mhm,
whatever,
mhm, mhm.
maybe it's like a warg, what is it called?
Borg
Like a
farm.
sanctuary,
Oh, I got like a
like a rescue sanctuary, a rescue warg sanctuary.
nature
Like so many
preserve.
funny ideas that where you could play against the trope
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
of
yeah.
expecting the
I
goblins to be
love the
little like
idea.
chaotic gremlins and stuff.
I love the idea of a
Um,
warg nature preserve. That's so
it's
good.
really funny.
State park.
Uh, yeah, I think that's hilarious.
Yeah.
I think that's really funny. Um, I also think you could obviously work in because it is pretty common to find goblins being tinkerers of some kind, and then it's just a
Yeah.
matter of where you want their technology to be. Are we going full tech? Are we going very basic where it's twigs and stuff? It's very like Gilligan's Island, but still does cool shit. Or are
Yeah.
we going like steam powered? Are we going black powder? Are we going da-da? You know what I mean? It's just like how advanced do you
Mhm,
want them to
mhm,
be?
mhm, mhm.
But I think them being little tinkerers is always a fun and useful for a DM because when you
Yeah.
have a
Yeah. Yeah.
tinkerer
Yeah.
in your pocket as like an NPC, that just it gives you a way of being like, what would the tinkerer make?
Yeah. Tinkerer,
World's your oysters.
pilot,
Yeah, it could be anything.
vehicle builder type of guy. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's just, he's just a little guy. It's just a little
He's
guy.
just a little guy. But there's so many things you could do with that little guy. Now getting into Goblin stats. So now getting into the brass tacks of it all. Now in 2014, what I will say is because there's not huge changes, as you can imagine. There's not like anything massive that's going to change between the versions 5 and 5.5, 2014, 2024. But in 2014, in the Monsters Manual, they really did only have a couple of goblins. It was really like Goblin and Goblin Boss.
Yeah.
Unless you got into third-party stuff.
Yeah.
But in 2024, they've opened it up slightly. Very slightly.
I did so something that I have done in the past for kind of trying to make goblins more relevant to higher level parties is just reskinning hobgoblins and making them goblins and just making them be stronger
That's
goblins.
a smart one. Yeah, that's smart.
You can use the same stat
really
blocks
easy way
for
to
a high level, a little bit higher level, a little bit stronger. You know, you can use the hobgoblin
more abilities
warrior thing to be like the boss of it, and then have your little guys and stuff. But yeah, because I did have a character who's like their whole thing was like, they hated goblins because goblins murdered his family, and then it's like, okay, cool. Well, here is a goblin that pilots an airship that has to take you where you're going. What are you going to do with him? That's my
confront your bigotry.
Yes, exactly.
Love it.
Exactly.
Confront your biases head on. Work on yourself. I love that. Hell yeah, I've done that as well. We had that one player who was just like, oh, you're a high elf, you must be like this, just instantly being like, you fucking don't know what you're talking about. I'm pretty sure we talked about that in session 0 or at some point. So I'm looking at some of the goblins that are from 2024. The 3 that they have that are, you could just get them on D&D Beyond for free. I'm not even logged in. You can just pull these up under the rules thing. There's a lot of monster stats that are for free. Obviously, they're going to try and charge you penny and dime for everything else, but there's some that you can still get right on D&D Beyond for free by filtering to basic rules and different things like that. So you have like a goblin minion, the weakest, CR 1/8. This is like pretty abysmal, you know, AC of 12 and 7 hit points. So not much here. Then we get the Goblin Warrior. This is a 1/4 CR. It's an AC of 15 and 10 hit points. And then we have a Goblin Boss. This is CR 1, 21 hit points, and an AC of 17. So each one just a little bit stronger than the last. It's very basic. I mean, the Goblin Minion makes 1 attack. It has a bonus action, Nimble Escape, where it can disengage or hide as a bonus action. It has Dark Vision, has a bunch of daggers because they do that in 2024. Well, it'll tell you that it's gear. So it tells you right on its stat block that it has 3 daggers on it, which is pretty cool. So you know for throwing and stuff, if you want to be accurate to that, obviously you can change it. Who cares?
Right.
They speak Common and Goblin, and this one only has a dagger. Goblin Warrior, still only 1 attack, but they also have a short bow and a scimitar now, so a little bit more damage. Still get the Nimble Escape, still have Dark Vision, all the other things. Just a higher AC because it also has leather armor now and a shield and all this other stuff. And then the Goblin Boss, same, we're just moving things up. It has a chain shirt now, so it's a little bit harder to hit. You know what I mean? Like everything is still pretty basic here. It gets multi-attack now, so 2 attacks, scimitar or short bow, Nimble Escape, and it also gets a reaction to redirect an attack. So if the goblin can see you and you make an attack roll against it, it can choose a smaller medium ally within 5 feet of itself and switch places with that ally, and the ally becomes the target of the attack instead. Which is really funny because the way I'm reading this is like
goblinish.
Is the goblin,
he's grabbing another goblin, putting him in front of the attack, and then
hilarious.
Classic mischievous little guy things.
Truly, like, there's betrayal, there's disloyalty, that sort of concept. Now, let's say hypothetically, in your world, even quote unquote evil goblins, you're like, they wouldn't do that. I don't want them to be that like conniving or something. Just hypothetically.
Right.
Just change that one ability to they can grab an enemy, and then it's just as interesting.
or change it to the well, I guess it kind of starts adding stuff. I was gonna say change it to the monk deflect attacks and roll some dice about it, just reduce the
That
damage.
too, you could
That's
do
adding,
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
have it
adding a bunch of stuff rather than just switching people out. But
give them
there's
like 3
options.
uses of the shield spell, same shit. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like there's
yeah, yeah,
different
yeah,
ways you can do it.
yeah.
If for some reason you're like, I don't think that like even evil goblins aren't going to sacrifice their own teammate
Hmm.
for the sake of that, like for whatever reason, hypothetically,
Yeah,
that's an
yeah,
easy
yeah.
fix. So, what are these stat blocks? How can we use these stat blocks? What are they? What comes to mind as a DM when you're planning encounters and you're using these? You're just looking at these stats, not necessarily looking at a map
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
whatever. What are
So,
your takeaways?
so these stats are good for ambushes and overwhelming numbers. This is
Mm,
a good way. My favorite use of goblins is to have something to throw a lot of things at my party.
mm-hmm,
When I'm wanting to have them start to kind of have to strategically think about, okay, well, I know big bad's over there or objective is over there, but I also have, 15 goblins that I've got to deal with. Otherwise, they're just going to keep mucking around in all my stuff this whole time.
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
there's a choice that has to be made. And also, like I said, like I've brought up before, I have a huge table, so I need something to help swing those action economies around.
Mm-hmm,
As far
mm-hmm.
as gaining more on my upper hand, at least at the
Yeah,
beginning of the fight. But they're really good. Like, don't expect them to stick around for very long.
no,
They are squishy little boys. They are just little guys. But
yep, yep, yep.
even the Goblin Warriors and stuff, we're talking like a good level 3, level 5 encounter or something. They're still very much in the play in play in the at that point. Even though
Mm-hmm.
I mean CR 1 or 2, but you put 15 of them together, bang, that's becomes a pretty deadly encounter. You know?
Yeah, it's all going to depend on also like your party comp
Yeah.
and different things, obviously, as well. Because, like, if you're going strictly what the HP is for a Goblin Warrior, it's only 10.
Yeah.
Like, a Barbarian could maybe like be taking these out with a single attack
Right.
if they're rolling decent on dice, of course. Um, so there's like different things like that to consider as well. Like, how much damage can your party really put out?
Hmm.
Do you have a ton of AoE abilities across your party? Then, depending on how you set up the
Oh,
fight
sleep
in
wreaks
terms of
havoc on
bunching,
goblins. Yeah.
that's what I mean. So it's like
Yeah.
when you're using parties where you're using kind of like hordes and
Hmm.
like swarms and stuff like that without necessarily using like a specific stat block, like the way
Right,
that
right, right.
there are
Yeah,
swarms
yeah,
of
yeah.
bats and stuff. So if you are just having a bunch of enemies, obviously the setup of that fight is huge. Who's
Hmm.
sneaking up on who? Who's ambushing who? Where are we? Who's got the home turf? Things to think about.
Hmm.
I also would very like I would pay attention to the idea of a couple things based just on these stat blocks. They all have dark vision.
Yes.
Maybe try and use that to your advantage. Maybe this is a low level fight. Not everybody in the party has dark vision.
Yeah.
Single out that player that doesn't. This is the moment. You're not going to have many of them. And later on in the campaign, you will have none of them. So
Hmm.
use it now. Right? Honestly,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
like at a certain
Absolutely.
point,
Yeah.
darkness is nothing. Even magical darkness eventually fucks, just like doesn't do
Yeah.
as much.
Yeah.
So that's why like I've homebrewed stuff where I'm like, the magic in here is actually advanced darkness, and even your your magical light spells are like diminishing. And I'm just fully homebrewing stuff to
Yeah.
make darkness interesting again. Because once you're like a 15th level, it's not a thing. So use it while you can. The other
Hmm.
thing is that they all speak Goblin. That could be a really interesting way of the goblins communicating openly without the party knowing what they're saying. And if there's a person who has comprehend languages, who has tongues, who has the ability to speak Goblin, all of those give them an opportunity to shine. So I think that's something I would also notice. The fact that they all speak a different language is something
Hmm.
that you could work into things. You know what I mean? It could be a
Yeah.
good way of foreshadowing. Like you're walking through a random mine. You have no idea who took the mine over. Oh my God, there's goblin writing? Probably goblins. That's a good foreshadowing clue that you could include, but it only works if they can do it.
Yeah.
So it rewards that kind of learning different languages and focusing on that. The other thing is they all have nimble escape,
Yes.
which is specifically disengage or hide. So I would treat these goblins in different ways. You're going to have some goblins that are going to get up close. You're going to have some goblins that need to stay a little bit further away. The goblins who are getting up close should be probably using that disengage action a lot. The ones who
Yeah.
are further away should probably be using that hide action a lot. So those are things to consider because that's going to help you decide maps. It's going to help you decide like where the ambush is being set up, where can they hide? You know, like
Yeah.
do they have high ground? Where are they setting up the ambush? How does the ambush even start? Like what gets the party to stop so that the ambush can start? You know, is it
Right,
like
right,
a tree in the middle of the road that just stops the carriage? Is it like somebody pretending that they need help? Is it what is it? You know?
Yeah.
Um, so that's what I think of when I think of all these different like stat blocks because they're all like they're not doing the most damage, right? Like
No.
even the goblin boss with their multi attack, it's like yeah, short bow does a d6, a scimitar does a d6, and then they add two to it. It's not a ton of damage.
Hmm.
Um, they sometimes will add like because we can also like Taylor was saying switching it to hobgoblins. Another way you could level this up is just incorporating different things like poisons
True.
or like we're talking about ambushes, talking about traps, talking about bombs and different like random explosives and different
Hmm.
ways of doing things. If you're incorporating vehicles like we had mentioned them being tinkerers in a lot of different iterations,
Yeah.
you can work that in. Instead of them needing the cart to come to a stop, here's just another cart coming. And now they're trying to run them off the road. And it's a bunch
Hmm.
of goblins in the back of a fucking Oregon Trail style wagon. That's sick. That's hilarious.
Get him in the old Saratoga.
I'm just picturing like there's like a a carriage goes by, right?
Uh-huh. Hmm.
And at first, the party, here's how I would do it as a DM. You guys are in your carriage. You're going from A to B. Along the
Hmm.
way, you see another carriage pulled by horses and it's gone off the road. It's going haywire. The horses are going wild. What's this? It's approaching a canyon. You have to save it. You see from here, it's very far away. You can see that the driver looks to be a blonde woman in a blue and white polka dot dress. She has a bonnet on, kind of, and her hair's just flying in the wind. But then once you save them and get there, as soon as
Hmm.
they turn, you can see that it's just a goblin in a wig.
Hmm. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And that was the setup for the ambush. And then it's Trojan horse, the wagon thing, the canvas
Yeah.
comes off the wagon, and it's just a bunch of goblins being like, rah! So many things you could do. So
Yeah.
fun. Um, Now we also have, remember this, wargs.
Mm-hmm.
We have
Hmm.
mounts. I think wargs add a lot to the party. I think they're a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
fun.
absolutely.
I think that it just they number one, under languages, it says goblin. It also says warg. Now, the way I'm reading that, because it doesn't just say understands goblin, which it normally would do if for some reason it couldn't speak. This implies that they speak.
Yes.
That's
That's
interesting.
pretty cool.
I didn't know that.
I've never once played a speaking warg, but
Neither have I. But now I'm thinking about it now.
yeah.
It's kind of interesting. But it makes you think because obviously goblins, they're known for not being the smartest, right? Like a goblin boss has an intelligence of 10, goblin minion intelligence of 10. So they're tens all across the board. A warg's got a 7. So there is always something like anytime you're doing any kind of fight where there's like a hierarchy of villains, right? You have the boss, you have the blah, blah, the general, the whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's always going to be that thing as a DM. You have to think about like what happens if the party takes out the boss first. What are the series of events that happen? What's the cause and effect of that? Does that
Yeah.
matter? Are these guys smart enough to pull themselves up and be able to fight without him, or are they going to descend into chaos? And
Yeah.
that's something for you to decide, you know. Um, other ways to make your goblins feel special. I think incorporating, given a couple of them spell casting would be
Yeah.
a really easy way. A couple cantrips, a couple simple things. Having them specialize in a thing, whether it's vehicles, whether it's explosives, whether
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Even like, hey, they're alchemists. They're that kind of tinkerers,
Mhm.
or they love acid damage, and that's why, hey, they've set up in a abandoned black dragon's lair, and that's why they're set up in this cave. And that then now you're making all these connections, right? And they're
Right.
alchemists. They're in a place where Black Dragon used to chill. That obviously implies acid because that's what Black Dragons breathe. So then you're just making all these connections.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
how can we use? I wrote this question down. How can we use combat slash roleplay slash exploration, so all of it, to
Yeah.
convey our world's versions of goblins?
I mean, that's a very broad question. Very
It's
carefully.
so broad. It really is just like,
Um.
so if you're trying to make your goblins,
Right.
you're like going into it saying these are going to be like World of Warcraft goblins.
So in
How would you
combat,
convey that to the players?
okay, so in combat, they are going to use a lot of kind of like explosive devices, cherry bombs, sticks of dynamite, stuff like that. Um, Role play wise, they are going to be kind of a true neutral, or maybe a,
Mm,
well, let's be real, chaotic neutral entities in the universe. They'll help, but not without a price or what have you.
yeah,
And then exploration, you could have some goblin towns. I would make whole
yeah,
towns of goblins. I think it's a thing. I really do like the idea of what's it called? Something Bay, Mutineers Bay or Butchers Bay or something like that is the name of the town in World of Warcraft that it's all run by goblins. I like that
oh hell
idea
yeah,
of having like a whole goblin city that is full
hmm,
of tinkerers and craftspeople and all of that stuff.
yeah, hell yeah. I think that like kind of hit the nail on the head. It's truly like, obviously you're showcasing some during combat where you're
Hmm.
just like they have certain abilities, and
Yeah.
so parts of their culture, their society, whatever, are showcased in what they're able to do. Then you have role play, and the same thing. It's just instead of what they do, it's how they act or how they
Right.
behave or whatever. So then you're just, okay, maybe they have certain characteristics or certain personality traits that are common in their demeanor.
Hmm.
And then exploration is truly, yeah, it's like the locations, the things that they make, the places that they build, how can we get the players there, and how
Hmm.
does my version of goblins or your version of goblins influence those things?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. And then like in Volo's Guide to Monsters is where I at least first saw it. It's
Hmm.
obviously not in the 2024 list of species, but that's just a matter of time before they
Hmm.
eventually add it, if they haven't already added it, because there's so many things behind a paywall. I just don't know.
Yeah.
um Speaking of paywalls, really quickly, if you are listening to this podcast and you're like, boy, there are ads on here, you're right. That is how we're trying to support ourselves. But you could subscribe to the Patreon, and there is also the podcast. Not only could you get it early for just $2 a month, in addition to other homebrew and different bonus materials, uh, but also no ads. So think about that. And if you're, for some reason, I don't know why, but if you're trying to scrape any of our episodes and feed it into AI generation programs, don't do that. We don't want that. And we don't like that. So don't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Back to the
Okay. Thanks.
episode.
Thanks.
So, so goblins as a species, whether it's from Volo's Guide to Monsters or Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse or whatever, you can play as a goblin in
Right.
D&D,
Hmm.
just using official materials as well. Now, you're a humanoid, but you can also be considered a goblinoid for any prerequisites or effects that would require you to be a goblinoid.
Right.
Um, there are ASI things, but I'm not even going to go over them because we all feel the same. It's usually dexterity, constitution, maybe intelligence, but it's kind of the vibe.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, you are usually considered small, which is fun.
Mm-hmm.
Your walking speed, however, is still normally 30 compared
Interesting.
to, I mean, they've upped that in 2024. Almost all of
Yeah.
them are 30,
Yeah.
but in the past, it's been like dwarves, halflings are 25. So you would
Mm,
expect goblins to also be 25, but they're not because they're little scamps. So they're
you're
running
right.
around so fast. So that makes sense. You also get dark vision, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Then sometimes in the newer version, they included Fey ancestry, bringing us back to how sometimes goblins
Right.
start in the Fey.
Right.
That's an interesting thing because that's one of those questions of like, where do goblins come from in your setting? So this might be something you need to talk about with that player who wants to play a
Mm-hmm.
goblin, whatever. But you're always going to get dark vision. You're always going to have 30, like most of it stays the same. There's also like you do get nimble escape, just like all of those stat blocks that we read off, where
That's
you're going
rad.
to get right
Yeah.
off the jump as your like species, you're going to get a bonus action, disengage, and hide.
That's awesome.
So it's almost as good as cunning action. It just doesn't have dash, but so good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you get Fury of the Small, a fun little ability where, like, depending on your level,
I do love
it's
Fury of the
just
Small.
once per short or long rest, you just
Mm-hmm.
add a bunch of damage. So if you're 20th, it's never that much, right? It's just literally the extra damage equals your level.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, we're level
Yeah.
10 extra damage. But it's like, hey, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Fury of the Small. It's
It's
just this
something.
idea that the creature does have to be at least a side larger than you.
Yeah. Which most things are. It's
Most
medium or
things
bigger.
will be.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, a lot of cool abilities right from the jump. There are like other different ones. I'm looking at Plane Shift, Zendikar, there's Plane Shift Ixalan, there's Adventures with Muck, Dankwood, which is a totally different thing where there's a certain kinds of goblins called from the Dankwood. And they
Oh
do
yeah.
different things. They can speak with beasts, and they have dark vision, and they uh, also have nimble escape. The plane shift ones are different ones across the multiverse and stuff like that. So there's so many different types of goblins, even just in D&D lore.
Mm-hmm.
It really is going to be like, who do you want goblins to be? Or what do you want goblins to be in your setting?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really interesting. Um, I also think that when it comes down to playing a goblin and trying to portray anything that I think you just always need to be careful when you're trying to portray like using a fantasy species in order to try and like portray some sort of minority or like anything like that. We talked about
Yeah.
it at the top. It's just like one of those things, just be cognizant of and just be like careful with, I
Yeah.
suppose. It's not for everybody, and I think it needs to be handled with respect because even if you're in your heart, you're trying to be as noble as possible. It still can be the context of how it's being presented to other people. You never know. So it's just like one of those
Yeah.
things that sometimes it's just like, dog, you don't need to do all that. You could just be a little more simple. They're just little
They're
tinkerers
just little
who love
guys.
explosives,
Mm-hmm.
and that's fine. We don't
Mm-hmm.
need to go too much more in depth. Uh, Now, sometimes I love to look at when I'm trying to think of how to use a species or how to use a specific type of monster. I will consider the five W's and the one H, of course, but
Right.
just
Right.
who,
Right.
what, where, when, why, and how. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
who are these specific goblins? What are goblins in your world? Where are these goblins from? Where are they now? When do we meet these goblins? And when did these goblins get involved in this story or in our plot or whatever? Why goblins in the first place? Why are you using goblins as opposed to something else? And why now? Why are the goblins now coming up? Why are there goblins doing this in general at all? Why
Yeah.
are they doing this?
Yeah.
And how are they doing it? How are they going about it? How are they unique or similar to other goblins? So just like I do that with a lot of things. I love those six questions. And I do it for so many things. Sometimes even when I'm like, oh, I got to give an elevator pitch, you
Right.
know, That's what this is good for. This is good for like bullet point kind of just figuring some shit out.
Mhm.
And it's an easy like organizational tool for being like, okay, they're going to encounter some goblins. Who are the goblins? And then think of a bunch of who questions. Who is the leader?
Right.
Who do they serve? Whatever. You can keep going. What are their interests?
Goals. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. So many different ways of just using those 6 words to like build off of it. And so I think, just try it out. Try it out.
Yeah. Use some goblins.
So many cool goblins. Use goblins. Gang, use goblins more. They're fun. They're good for low levels. At the higher levels, you can get really interesting with them because they can still be fun encounters like the Nilbogs that maybe don't need to like end in slaughter and massive massacre or anything.
Yeah.
Just be like a very interesting different thing of trying to help the goblins. Maybe you can have the goblins become allies. They can become like, maybe what if they're this interesting little thing of like, hey, now we have that merchant, and it's the goblin merchant who tinkers and makes things for us, who knows? But it's that time of the week.
It sure is.
It is that time of the week, and boy, do we got one for you this week. Gang, you know what time it is. It's that time of the week. Monster of the week. Forgot how it goes. Been so long. All right, gang. Today, we're talking, feels like forever. Today, gang, we're talking about the GG bird.
Naturally.
Now, the GG bird is a fearsome critter that used to be a story spread by lumberjacks in North America in the 19th and 20th centuries. The GG bird, if you ever see a picture of it, it's terrifying. It's got weird slug eyes, but it's a massive bird, sharp teeth along its massive beak. The thing is, there isn't much known about the GG bird. You'll notice that this is one of the shortest cryptid wiki pages we've ever used.
I thought I had just clicked into just the picture, like I didn't realize that.
Yeah. No, it's just very short. Found in Alaska. The GG bird is crazy. It's been described by soldiers who were stationed in Alaska. They're the ones who described this strange bird.
They went crazy. Okay.
They said as the bird flew over their head, they heard the bird saying, GG Jesus, it's cold. And now it's called the GG bird. And that's all you need to know.
That's it.
And that's it.
That's all you need to know.
So it's just hilarious. In a Pokemon turn of events, the bird is named after what it says. And what it says is, it's like stuttering because it's so cold, it's shivering.
Right.
And it's trying to just go, Jesus, it's cold. But instead it goes, Jesus, it's cold. And so some soldiers were like, that's the GG bird.
GG bird, yeah.
And so that's where we are today. So I just find this to be fascinating because it's like, what the hell constitutes as a cryptid these days?
Well, yeah.
There's so little information on this thing, this apparently cryptid. But
reading the GG bird from Lenwood's Lexicon of Lumberwoods Lore. Oh, and then it's a dead link. Damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
It's very interesting. I just don't know. Yeah.
Gee, well, I think that's all we can get into this time. You can find us on TikTok and Instagram at So You Want to Be a DM, or you can ask us a question at So You Want to Be a DM at gmail.com. If you like the episode, don't forget to give us 5 stars and a review wherever you found us, and check out the Patreon, the Twitch, and our merch with the link in the description. Join us next time for more Dungeon Master tips and tricks.
Bye.
See ya.
Hey gang, it's Justin. I have the honor of giving a shout out to the members of our Patreon gang. Nut Muffins, may Palor's light shine upon you. Marsavies, have you watered your flesh prison lately? Yazvai, the eternal library, where color and community await you. Molly Adeza, who gets yet another level up. Amy Rose Zero, today, don't forget to touch grass, be kind, and resist fascism. And there's Caden, Elijah, Tappy, and Linguini. Gang, we appreciate and love you. Tune in next time for more tips and tricks from So You Wanna Be a DM.